taking the time. I feel like a wedding coordinator having like 4 different bridesmaids, like it's very hard to get 3 to 4 people in one place at one time, especially now. So basically, what we're going to be talking about in this video is this video slash podcast is the one thing we primarily have in common is being Black and having biology majors, and what we're doing with those majors, and our thoughts and choices, and how we got into the major and where we're going with it. So, and the degree in general. So, we're gonna start with introductions. So I'm gonna start as the host, and then we're gonna go in order of Kevin and Konan and then Tanner, and they're gonna introduce themselves as well. So I'm Morgyn, and I graduated from Wake Forest University in 2019 with a bachelor's of science in biology and a minor in chemistry. And I like to also mention 2 classes away from a minor in Spanish. But I was pre-med in undergrad. I, for some reason, thought I was going to go to med school, but like never did. Like when I got accepted, they called and they were like, "Do you want to be pre-med?" And I was like, "Sounds interesting, sure, whatever." So I just was pre-med, and what I'm currently doing now is I'm working as an environmental scientist at an engineering consulting firm. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm also in the process of applying for graduate schools for public health programs.
Kevin Robinson. I went to Wake Forest University, graduated in 2017. Bachelor's of Science in Biology, minor in Chemistry. I was on the pre-med track. Ended up going to Syracuse for a post-bac program in biomedical and forensic science. And on the medical school, ended up working for PPD, a clinical research organization. I'm currently a quality assurance auditor for the vaccine sciences department, as well as the PPD ambassador. And currently, I'm also teaching forensic science virtually for the Syracuse STEP program. And I created a robotics program that's implemented in various school districts. So that's just a little bit of what I do.
All right, I guess I'm next up. So I'm Konan B. Graduated from Wake Forest in 2019 with a BS in biology, minors in chemistry and philosophy. Honestly, if I could go back, I would have majored in philosophy instead. That's where my bread and butter really was, where I spent a lot of my time in the philosophy department. Then after graduating, I took a year to work as a medical scribe at a hematology oncology practice in Cary, while I was doing my applications for med school. So I was pre-med at Wake, forgot to mention, and after working that year at the practice, ended up at University of North Carolina School of Medicine, and in my first year, second semester right now.
So I'm Tanner Nelson. I graduated from William & Mary in 2020, and then I'm currently, I studied biology there, and I was mostly interested in psychology, but I felt like there was like a certain structure and path that I needed to take to make myself more competitive, which I don't think is necessarily true now, but that's why I majored in bio, and now I'm a first year at Virginia Commonwealth University School of Medicine.
Thanks for starting that out. Yeah, it's crazy like listening to what everyone's doing, because it's kind of weighted. There are 3 Wake Forest people, but everyone is doing different things, even though we started, I guess, with a similar background in terms of what we chose to major in. But it's just so much greatness. Like, I love talking to you guys individually, so I know this is going to be a great conversation because you all are just individually awesome people. But we all mentioned where we went to undergrad, and I wanted to follow up with that with why did you choose your undergraduate university? So for me, like, Wake was the only school I applied to, early decision, and I just chose to roll with that. I got in, and the rest was history.
For me, I knew I wanted to go to Wake Forest since it's honestly like a weird story, but I wanted to go since I was 7. I'm a real big basketball fan, and I'm like not the tallest, so I play point guard. And I was a real big Chris Paul fan, so they play Richmond every year, whether it's either at Winston-Salem or in Richmond. But one year they came to Richmond, Chris Paul happened to play, so I went to the game and was like, yo, I'm gonna go to that school. Yo, I'm definitely gonna go to that school. So I just applied, didn't do early decisions, did regular decisions, and so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go there. So that's how I ended up at Wake. It was kind of just like destiny, honestly.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a different path. I'm trying to think back. It seems like so long ago. I applied to 9 schools, if I can remember correctly, and I have also been like a big basketball fan all my life, and like had been following Duke for most of my life. So Duke was was my and I'm saying this as I'm at UNC right now, so I'm sure.
And you graduated from Wake.
Exactly. So yeah, Duke was my number one choice where I was aiming for while I was applying, and I did end up getting in there, but they didn't give me any financial aid, and Wake wasn't really on my radar while I was applying until I got invited up for a scholarship weekend. So I went down, spent the weekend there, and one of the juniors who was a scholar there hosted me, and had a great time, learned more about the campus, and Wake really shot up on my radar after that, and was lucky enough to get the scholarship, and so ended up being the best financial option for me. So it really was the option. So that's how I ended up at Wake. A little more of a winding road, but yeah.
So it came down to like Wake and Duke for you.
Yeah, it was, well, Duke was always was the dream really, but with no financial aid, I really didn't think it was worth it. And so financially it came down to Wake, UNC, and Vanderbilt, and Wake was the best option financially. So
I feel like I didn't really have a plan. Like, I knew I wanted to go to college, but at the same time I knew like I probably wanted to do like grad school. So to me, my degree really wouldn't matter. I just wanted to be somewhere where I could like be happy. So I like applied to like probably 13 schools. So some in California, just because I like the beach, and I was like, oh, this could be fun. I applied to Spelman and Hampton because I had never been around like people that looked like me. So I just figured I would like cast a wide net and then see where I got accepted and like money and all that. So I did like the college tour up north, threw my application into the Ivies. Did not work out, but and then at the end of the day, it was like most economically efficient to go to William and Mary. Like, I didn't get into the Ivies, and the schools I got into for California, it was out of state, and it was just like, it just wouldn't have been smart to like pay that much money for a college experience when I know that I might be going to grad school, and like why start collecting that debt early. So I guess out of the options I had, William and Mary was the best school to me, both like academically and cost wise.
Yeah, William and Mary is a college that like I've known about it. Like, I know a lot of people who've gone to I know like 4 people who've gone to William and Mary, but it's like a very good college. Like, it's on the level of like University of Virginia, but like when you look at college nationally, like I guess it's like, if it's not a huge football school, people don't think it exists. But William and Mary is like a really good school. So, but I also thought about going to college in California. But then my parents were like, you can only come home for the summer. There's no Christmas. There's no Thanksgiving. And I was like, I need food. I can't skip holidays.
Yeah, honestly, even 4 people is a lot because the school is pretty small. So
yeah, it's 2 of them were my English teachers. I'm not gonna lie, they were the worst English teachers I've ever had. So. But that's not on the program. I think they were just like not great students themselves when they were in school. But yeah, so we all said why we chose our college, but like why did we choose biology majors? And someone else can start, is why did you choose bio? I know like Wake, for example, is like a liberal arts college, and I think William and Mary kind of is too, if I'm not mistaken. But they have you take basically extra classes that aren't entirely necessary in what you plan on studying in, but you're exposed to so much. It's why'd you decide on bio, especially like Konan? I think I want to hear you first because you talked about you talked about philosophy, and I know you hung around the philosophy department a lot. So
Yeah, no, I can definitely talk a bit about more about that. So for me, I guess it wasn't really just like medicine was never really a choice. It's the same with biology because for context, my dad's a dentist. So like I was always sort of already exposed to the medical side of things, since I was young. As kids always do, they want to be what their parents are. And my mom didn't work, so like the parental role model I had in my life was dentist, was like medical. And so from a child, I was like, I want to be like my dad. I want to be a dentist. Then I worked with my dad for a summer, and I realized I don't want to be staring in people's mouths all day. But I was still interested in the medical side of things more generally. So I pivoted to medicine rather than dentistry. And then once I got to college, I was just like, well, I mean, when you're going into medicine, biology is what you do. So it's a biology major. I never really gave it a second thought. And just saw that, looking at the pre-med requirements, that's what would be most efficient for me. And so why I mentioned that looking back on it, that I would have done a philosophy major is because, I did what was most efficient for me, but I didn't necessarily do, what was, most like gratifying or most enriching for me, because that's, when I was in my philosophy classes, talking like I took a social and political philosophy class senior year, where the professor, like we built the curriculum together with the professor, and like we chose like the topics we were going to go through, and we had like a really open-ended like final project where we incorporated, philosophy with current issues, and that's where I was really engaged. Like I like biology, I'm interested in it, but science can only get you so far. Like it's there's more to the world than just the physical mechanisms and molecules and whatever. Like the liberal arts and the philosophy tells you about the content of like people and the human mind, and so that's where I was really engaged. And so like I say, I really chose biology just because that's what you do. Tacked on the philosophy minor because I knew I was interested in that and I wanted to be able to explore it more. But going over it again, I would definitely have majored in it instead.
Yeah, we definitely need more doctors like you, because I took bioethics at Wake, and that's taught in the philosophy department. And like Wake and liberal arts in general, people like to trash liberal arts, but like especially in a position like a doctor, like people are more than just like hemoglobin and cells, nuclei, they're actual people. So I think understanding, how like the ethical implications and how you talk to people, having good bedside manner, like that's not taught in a classroom. Like you learn that through collaboration with other students. So yeah, I mean, I know when I was at Wake, they had mentioned that you don't have to major in biology to go to medical school. I think they said like it makes you actually more attractive to not major in bio because everybody majors in bio and chem. So they said. So I think at first, like I thought, like I was pre-med, so my first classes were chemistry and biology. And I was tottering between chem and bio as a major. I didn't do hot, like so hot in my second semester of chemistry. So I kind of stuck to biology. And I almost quit biology too. So at Wake, there's this, I don't want to call it a cop-out major. Like I don't want people to feel bad. But like biology is a very difficult major. Like especially the bachelor's of science in biology is very hard. And so a lot of people in college, you're very GPA focused, especially like, your major GPA. So I was doing really bad in cell bio. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to name the professor, but we may have had the same cell bio professor, but she was hard. And like, it took me a while to figure out how to study in her class. I had a straight F in her class for like the first half of the semester. And I was telling my advisor, like, look, I can't have a poor GPA in my sophomore year. So I'm going to switch to health and exercise science, which is like close to biology, but I think they're more like anatomy and like physiology focused. And that was just going to be like a GPA restart. And then my advisor was like, no, Morgyn, just like stay in the major. Like you can do it. The core classes suck, but you can just stay in the major and it gets a lot better. And it did. It really did. As upper level biology classes kind of include that collaboration of like what are the implications of our research in the real world and kind of more discussion topics like that. So I I think I fell in love with like the topics we talked about in biology, and I kind of went to Wake, like I fell in love with Monsters Inside Me like prior, like the TV show on Animal Planet about parasites. So like I knew I wanted to study parasites coming into Wake, so I guess like it was just destiny to be a biology major. But I never really thought about like, I knew it wouldn't be my last degree.
I think quality of life is really important to me. So I, even though like I knew I wanted to be pre-med and that comes with like certain stressors, I wanted to make my life outside of pre-med like as easy as possible. So being a biology major encompassed all of the classes that I needed to take. So when I could take classes like for psych or like bioethics was a course that we had that I really liked, and like I really loved the social sciences, like learning about health disparities, but that just was not something that I wanted to put on myself like an extra stressor. So really it was about efficiency for me.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I remember going to a health conference like at a young age, and me and my cousin Jeremy, he attended William Mary for 1 or 2 years, and he ended up transferring to BCU to finish his degree. But that was really my first experience and wanted to be in the health field. And then actually similar background to like Konan, one of my mentors was Dr. Morrow Harris. He did stuff with teeth. He was a oral surgeon, oral and maxillofacial surgeon. So I was getting my wisdom teeth pulled and getting like cleft lips stuff fixed and everything. But then I realized, over time I didn't really, want to do that. I wanted to be in science. I just didn't know in what aspect. And going to Wake, I do appreciate my degree at Wake, but I don't believe that it's not that many Black people in that community, so I don't believe that they always had the best interest in need. I mean, I don't. I'm not. I'm not hood. I'm not. Sir, I'm not ghetto. I'm not whatever. But I do know that there's art. But I'm not also like sometimes I'm not uppity. I'm not this, that, and the third. Sometimes I'm just me. I'm just who I am. And I know that sometimes that rubs off certain people the wrong way, especially at Wake Forest, being in the deep south, or not in the deep south, but being in North Carolina and having its roots. It's certain people just don't want to see you succeed, and it really took me to um, it really took me needing a fifth year to know like, okay, I can make this. I can do well in my bio, because I honestly thought about switching to English. I thought about switching to health and exercise science. But something was telling me, like, I remember having the paperwork, but I never filled it out. And something was telling me like not to fill it out, and I didn't do it. And now I'm doing what I'm doing now. I ended up not doing medical school just because I didn't. I had to come to be realistic, and that's just a decision that I had to come down to make. So no shade to anyone that's in medical school. If that's what people want to do, definitely do it. So I was just thankful that I was took that fifth year to really figure out what I want to do with my bio degree. So.
But yeah, everything's not for everyone, and like moving into like biology, we all took different paths, and like the next question is like, what does a biology major offer that other majors don't?
Well, I'll say for me, at least me being biology, I didn't, I was just assumed I was going to look for a post-bac program. But then I ended up finding Syracuse, which allowed me to do forensic science and biomedical. And I didn't really know I liked forensic science as much until I did taking an English class with Dr. I think it's Dr. Shirey at Wake. We had to watch The Wire and write papers on it, and it was the first season of The Wire, and that's where I really, kind of really fell into forensic science, and not really knowing that, and so not my advisor didn't tell me that there was forensic science as an option, and that there's clinical science work and other things. She was telling me to be a technician, someone that just gets told what to do, and like that's just not me. So, I was able to really learn and do more. And then now with my degree, I kind of like split it up. I can do biomedical, so I can do forensics. I mean, do like medical work and go in labs, or I can do forensic science work, or I took some law classes. So if I want to pursue law, I could do that. If I want to do pharmaceuticals, I could do that. So it really gave me flexibility.
Maybe we can circle back to this topic, but I just noticed that, like Kevin, when you were talking about how like your faculty were telling you like they didn't always have your best interest at heart, or like they were trying to redirect you to like being a technician, even though that might not align with like what you want to do. I'm not sure if it's like a Black thing or minority like trend, but I do notice that a lot of my friends who look like me have like similar experiences, myself included, where you have to be like, you are your only advocate and your best advocate. So I just felt like at my school as at a PWI, I had to be the one to reach out for help, which I don't think is too much to ask, but I do notice that other groups of people get more assistance or more guidance, because it is hard to, I think, navigate a field, like not even medicine, when you don't have any mentors or you don't have people that you personally know to talk to.
You like jumped ahead. These were follow-up questions, Tanner. You're just killing it. But no, she is. Yeah, we were going to talk about it anyway, but we can hop into that too, unless Konan had something he wanted to say about like what a bio major has to really offer. But y'all both did biology to get a leg up in medical school, so I like, if you want to have a response other than like, you know, being grilled extra in the biology part.
No, that's okay. We can move into the topic that Tanner brought up, because I think there's a lot to talk about there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no. So, yeah, we can move into that. And I know the Wake experience, and like Kevin and versus like me and Konan were at Wake at different. Well, we were at Wake at the same time, but we were probably hitting the career center at different times. And Tanner, I want to ask, does Women Marry have like a career advice center, and like, do they give y'all ideas of what you can do with your major?
I never really got like advice for like all the different paths for biology. I think that my professors were advocating for the paths that they chose, but when it came time for pre-med, we don't have like a certain committee. I'm not sure if Wake Forest has a committee. So it's more like you're talking, there's one pre-med advisor, and she has a very strict idea of who can be eligible to apply for medical school. So that's just how the tradition is. So you go through her and you get your recommendation usually from her. I obviously did not, but that's how I navigated school. Yep, could not do it. Because I just felt like the vibes were just so unprofessional. Like when I first meeting with her, I was like my sophomore year, first semester, and she told me that like I wasn't ready and I needed to take a gap year. And I'll say like I felt like when I was in college that like me taking a gap year like wasn't an option. Like when it really is an option, and like it's good for it's good for people that need it. But I felt like, I think it was like pressure from my parents that like I couldn't do that. But back to the advisor, she told me that I wasn't ready in sophomore year, which I thought was unacceptable because I'm like a sophomore, first semester. I just don't think that was appropriate for her to say. And then I circled back to get advice from her in junior year, and she only wanted to tell me about the historically Black medical schools, which is fine, and I applied to those. But I felt like the way that she was, like the conversation was just really, I don't know, wild, like inappropriate. Her telling me.
Oh, was she like? Sorry, did you feel like she was like limiting you and like trying to put you in a box? Like, oh, you probably, you know, won't. What do they say when you don't fit in a job, that you don't fit in with the culture of the university or something? So.
I don't think she said it directly, but she like was like, okay, these are the colleges you need to look at, and I'm assuming she gives everyone a list. And I felt like we didn't have a personal relationship, so that was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of off-putting. And she was telling me like, oh, like you'll probably have a better chance of getting in X, Y, and Z. So I didn't like her as a person, I don't think, but I don't think that is a uncommon experience that people have with her.
Okay, yeah, no, well, at least you had an advisor. Konan, was there a pre-med advisor? Because advising at Wake, first of all, I'm gonna go on record and saying advising at Wake was trash. Like it's because like they put you your first 2 years, they put you with a professor in any department. So like I got lucky because my advisor was in the chem department. So like he was like, oh, I know what chem classes you can take. But sometimes like if you're a biology major who's pre-med, your like advisor can be like in the English department, and they'll be like, I don't know what you should take. Like, try to take this class, but it's not helpful. So, like, Conan, correct me, like, if I'm wrong. Is there like a
Yeah,
pre-med
yeah, there
advisor
was
anywhere?
actually. I don't know if we're. I'm not gonna say names because I don't know if we're supposed to do that on video. But yes,
I
there
think I
was,
have an
and
idea of who it is,
yeah,
but okay, because I
yes,
never talked to
yes, it
her.
was her.
I think,
Um,
yeah, okay, yeah.
yes,
I
and there
didn't
were
like her,
yes,
so.
there was. Yeah, and I remember hanging out in the intercultural center and just talking to other people who were also bio majors, and everyone had a story about when they met with her and how similar to Tanner that she was either implying like limiting people or implying things about where she thought their performance could be just based on their appearance, and that's not just hearsay because I met as you were mentioning, like you're placing your first 2 years with with an advisor that's not in your department. So my advisor was in the Women and Gender Studies department, I believe, and I met with that pre-med advisor to sort of plan out like for my my 4 years if I want to get because I knew I wanted to study abroad. So like if I want to get my pre-med requirements done and study abroad, like I want to plan this out early. And I remember I was telling her at the time I was planning on triple minoring. I wanted to do a bio major and then chem, philosophy, and psych triple minor. And she said, like, direct quote, like, "Do you think you're Superman?" Like, direct quote. And which I was like Tanner was saying, like completely inappropriate. Like we didn't have a relationship. This was my first time meeting her. Um, and like I said, limiting me, like maybe you should stick to one minor, like, and just making all these implications about my performance. And met with her again since she was the head of the committee that you got your committee letter from, like to do your application. Had to meet with her again later while I was actually getting my applications ready senior year. And when I was talking with her and showing her my list of schools and everything, I remember I had Case Western on. I had like ranked the schools based on like how hard I thought they were to get into based on my stats. And I had ranked Case Western as like a fit, sort of a fit, not a reach school, but like a good fit based on my stats. And she looked at it and was sort of like, "Are you sure that's a fit school for you? I think that might be a bit of a reach for you." Um, and so it was again sort of that undermining, like making assumptions about me. So there it's definitely not your experience isn't an isolated thing, Tanner. That's something that I've seen, heard, talked about, and experienced myself in those scenarios. So
I think this is a great segue into like mentors and like the importance of having a mentor. And Tanner had touched on it earlier. It's like if you don't, me and Kevin said it the other day, but it's like you don't know what you don't know. Um, and I, sorry, yeah, but it's like you don't. And I was pre med, but like I didn't know what the GRE was in my junior year. Like no one told me there are these tests you need to take. There's like I don't know what a post bac was, and so I felt like super late to the game, like just because I didn't know there were these things you were supposed to be doing in the background to set yourself up to be successful in certain type of like medical school or research positions. So yeah, you guys, did you ever find a mentor that you feel like guided you in the right direction? Or
Yeah, I say for me, I did. Not when I was an undergrad, definitely when I got to graduate school, and I think a lot of those people joined were in my chapter as well. Like 'cause I'm a Kappa, so it I appreciate them just because like they were the ones that kind of like led me. A lot of the people that are in my chapter were like doctors or were medical school students. Because I did alumni, so we had a lot of older bros in there, and so we're just they're just kind of showing me the way, and they're kind of like leading me to like they're where I'm trying to get to. And so it's a lot of people that I could probably think back to leading up to this point, but I know as of right now, I know that a lot of the wisdom that I've gotten has come from those bros because they went down certain paths. They've had interactions with advisors the same way. Like nothing's changed. Like it's still the same interactions we've had with our advisors. They've had. It's the same issue. So I just try to when I get information, I just try to give it back to people that don't know what they don't know. Like like my brother and my friends, when I teach forensic science and the students for robotics, I'm like, we're learning STEM, but I'm teaching them stuff outside of that, like stuff that you can learn, and like 3 years later, you should still know it, like good stuff, practical stuff. I don't know if that really answers your question, but just having mentors and then like becoming one myself, like.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, I think you answered it, and just, like, the importance of having somebody in your corner. Like, a mentor is someone who's in your corner, but additionally, like, someone who knows which way to kind of direct you. And you do have to be kind of assertive, but also look for someone that you don't have to force a relationship with a mentor. Like, it's a relationship like any other. Like, if it's somebody who you click with them, like, you maintain that. But I don't know if you guys, like, anybody else had a mentor or, like, wanted to talk about how they were able to find a mentor and really maintain that connection with that person.
Yeah, I can. Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
Okay. I know for me, my dad is in medicine, so that was kind of a natural mentor. And like the conversations that I was talking about earlier, like those things do get to me, but I felt like really grateful that I could like circle back at home base and talk to my dad about it. And like, he would like my personal hype man, like hype me back up, like, yes, you can do it. But as I'm like, I guess maturing in med school, it's been like difficult to find mentors that are not like things that you're forcing. Because I feel like both sides can kind of tell when it's just professional. And like, I don't know, I'd be curious to see what you guys think about how to find mentors, but typically I'll start like just like as friends with someone, and then they just happen to be older and like into something that I am into, and it works out like that. You can go, Konan.
Oh, thanks. I was just gonna say, I know for me, while I was in undergrad at Wake, I ended up working at a lab at the like Wake Forest School of Medicine, in the biochemistry department, and the PI that I was working under was one of my friend's dads, who I got connected through that way, but I really didn't have a super, even though I was like literally working in his lab, I didn't really have like a super close, like what I would call a mentor level relationship with him. And so for me, it like really finding that mentor was like after undergrad, really, in terms of working through the actual, getting things ready for like medical school applications and all that process, was really self-guided. And it wasn't really until after med school, during my gap year, when I was working at the hematology oncology practice I mentioned, the physician I was working under there really grew into a mentor for me. He's like one of the smartest physicians I've ever met. He went to Harvard and then the Mayo Clinic. And he was an older white man, so he really wasn't someone who looked like me, but he was someone who took a lot of interest in uplifting minority voices. He had probably one of the more diverse like medical staffs I'd ever seen, and he was a community physician, like a private practice, so he wasn't associated with like one of the big hospitals, and so a lot of the minority population and people of lower socioeconomic status who didn't have access to the big like public hospitals like came to that like community practice. And so he was known for having a really good working relationship and like having that outreach with like underrepresented minority populations, and he really grew into, like I said, a mentor role for me. He like wrote me a letter of rec without me even asking him to, but I think that sort of that experience highlights like I think we've been alluding to sort of the dearth of minority voices in like these fields that we're like looking to go into. Because like I said, even though I ended up finding a good mentor, even though it took me till after the undergrad, it still wasn't someone who looked like me, even though it was someone who did help me and had, my best interest in heart. And I'm grateful to him. I still, text him and give him updates about how I'm doing in school and everything. it still wasn't, someone who looked like me. And so I think, I don't know, I just think that's interesting. So.
Yeah, I think the big part is someone who's in your corner, because there are always snakes in the grass, always. And I feel like maybe it's just me being me. It's just I pick up vibes very quickly. As soon as I can kind of first get to know someone, I can tell when someone is uncomfortable with me, and it's because I'm Black. It's they, I guess, don't know how to act around me, and I'm just I don't know why you're uncomfortable, because I'm not gonna attack you or anything. It's talk to me like a normal person. But it's nice to feel heard and understood, and like we said, someone who's in your corner and can guide you to where you want to be. So I hope that's at least with one thing from that happens from this podcast whenever it's posted, is a student listens to this and goes they've done it, and I'm inspired to continue down this path and find someone who can continuously tell me no, you're capable. Although someone tries to deter you and say, oh, are you sure this is for you? I don't think you're where you need to be. I think you need to spend more time elsewhere. This isn't for you. Someone needs to continuously just be there for you. So kind of going into that with mentors and navigating I want to say undergrad in biology, but in general, we all, you both are still attending predominantly white institutions, but we all went to predominantly white institutions. And I thought we could spend some time talking about navigating what it's like being Black in science, technology, math, and engineering. Even it being a PWI, there were times where we were the only Black people in the entire classroom. And sometimes I feel I couldn't study with people because I feel like people wouldn't even look at me. So I felt like I was on my own a lot, and it was hard. And sometimes there were professors who I didn't feel like approaching because they didn't want to take the time to just deal with me. So it's just I want to hear about y'all's, I guess, methods in navigating. It's how did you support yourself or seek out help? I know Konan was really smart, so he just kever studied and always got A's. No, I'm kidding. I saw Konan in the library all the time, and I wanted to study with you, but I was he's studying super intense. I can't, I can't keep up.
No, it's I think that is honestly the reason you always saw me studying in library by myself for the most part, is because I just wanted to avoid all that navigation, all that thinking about thinking about who I'm studying with, how the dynamic is going to be. But I just always prefer to study by myself because of that. And I'm completely losing my train of thought here. I'm sorry. What was the question that we were discussing?
It's on how you navigated, continuing into excelling in your studies, even though they're it's being right. Sometimes the only Black student in class, so sometimes you're the only person in your corner.
Right. Okay. Yes. Now I realize where I was going with this. But yeah, I think in sort of relying on sort of just studying by myself and being relying on myself only to get me through my work. A lot of the times I would sort of use work as a means of escaping the Wake Forest environment, because I honestly felt pretty excluded at Wake. I wasn't, I didn't join a frat. Is that's the thing you do because when you're at Wake, but that was never a thing for me. I didn't join a frat, and so after sophomore year, when everyone's gone off to do their Greek life thing, and the entire life at Wake is built around whether you're in a frat or not. When you're not in one, you're sort of left in this weird middle space, this weird limbo. And so I think I honestly struggled with that a bit, not really having a niche, not really having a group sort of. And so I think a lot of the times I would just bury myself in my work and bury my nose in the book, and I'd go to the library 4:00, put my head up, it's 10 o'clock and I can go to bed, and I didn't have to worry about, oh, like, you know, did I hang out with people today? Did I, you know, do this and that to, you know, take care of myself? Because I was burying myself in my work. And I think that was, I mean, it definitely reached a breaking point around junior year where I had to sort of break that cycle and, you know, realize, like, you know, this isn't healthy. This isn't a healthy way to deal with, you know, what you're going through. But I think it sort of gets at the core of your question that you're sort of talking about here, Morgyn, is that, you know, what do you do when you're sort of, like you said, you feel like you're the only person in your corner in the in a sea of people who don't look like you, like don't feel like you belong. And like I said, I think I sort of buried myself in my work to avoid thinking about that. And you know, had to like come to grips with it and, you know, have a conversation with myself. And luckily I had a very good roommate who was my random roommate freshman year and who I still live with now, who I was able to rely on.
Yo, you still live with him?
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't
we
know you
we
guys
Tell
still,
myself what's
together.
up.
yeah, no, we
Finally,
still
tell
live
myself
together.
what's up, man.
Conan
No.
is lucky because I wish I had a roommate situation like I had a single my first year, and then I became an RA and kept singles like after that because I had suite mates and like I was jealous. I was like, I wish I had a roommate like Conan's. But yeah, no, it's difficult. Like Tanner, how'd you do it at William and Mary? How'd you push through?
I feel like it's a skill I'm still learning, but I think it was a pretty natural progression from like, I mean, I went to private school up until 8th grade, and I was like me and one other black girl, and that was the only people in our grade. And then I was like on the swim team, so not a lot of black people there. So it was like, it wasn't hard for me to adapt. It was honestly like all that I knew. And I think that there was a lot of self-studying, but there was a version of me who hung out with my study group, and then there was a version of me that hung out with friends who were not in STEM but looked like me. So I think like joining a sorority and being part of like minority groups on campus made me feel like I belonged somewhere, because I felt like the person I was being in my study group was not. It was a palatable version of myself, and I feel like I'm constantly at like war. Like, do I present myself as someone who's palatable so that I can network and get resources that you know, the masses have, or do I come off a certain type of way if I like, do I risk coming off like as an angry black woman? And I'm probably not going to choose the latter because I feel like that's not good for my career. So I guess like separate groups is how I navigated it.
It sounds like you came in kind of ready, like hitting the ground running, because you mentioned you went to private school. Like I'm gonna ask Kevin about his background too, because Kevin and I grew up near each other, but I grew up in the county and he grew up in the city. And so like our educational backgrounds are different, but like my high school, Chesterfield County has it set up so like there's specialty centers at all the high schools, and the one I went to was engineering. But you know, there was 8 black people in the program. They accepted 50 students in the program. 8 of them were black and 8 of them were female. So, and I think out of the black females there was like 3 or 4. But getting into Wake, a predominantly white institution, it was still culture shock, because it wasn't just like, I was used to being around white people, no problem. My high school is one of the most diverse high schools in the county, but it was the socioeconomical like difference that really hit me. Because, and I think like me going in college and I knew I was accumulating debt, like I saw people rolling in like Audis as their first car, and like I had roommates who were part of the richest sorority on campus. They'd leave the front door open, and like when I shared a room with them, or they leave their keys in their car. It just really bothered me, like people just take things for granted, and I think that for some, like you shouldn't worry about other people, but it's just like I remember I was coming into like, you know, apartment once, and my mom had just finished making us lunch and she was washing the dishes, and one of the girls who was staying in the little apartment setup I was in told my mom, like, she said, "Oh, thanks for cleaning up." Like she thought my mom worked there. And like when people think stuff about it, just hurts. Like, for lack of a better word, it just hurts when people think less of you. Like you try to wear a face and just like, you know, let it pass, but like it hurts. And you don't really experience that coming from like a middle class high school, you know, because people have seen, we're all in the same pretty much socioeconomic, you know, status. But when you see like people who legitimately will look down on you, which like that's why I said like I felt that more at Duke than I did at Wake. But you know, it just got to me and it really hurt. So I wanted to, you know, hop on Kevin and talk about like I guess his transition, you know, and making it at Wake, but also like, you know, going from high school in Richmond to like Wake Forest University, a predominantly white, you know, rich private school, like what that was like.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I applied to the governor's school, the Maggie Walker, and I thought I was gonna get in, but I know I tested better than like other people that went to school with me, and they ended up getting in, and I didn't even make the waiting list. So that was kind of like my first exposure, not really, knowing that that was the how the world would be. So I'm going to Richmond Community, which was like the top minority school here. I'm in Richmond, but it's kind of like opposite of. I mean, we do everything basically like the governor's school, and I think honestly better. So I'm glad I went there. But it being all black, that was just what I was used to, just being from city of Richmond. I went to public school basically all my life. Wake, it was totally different being in the bio department. Especially, I mean, I think when you and Konan started to get there, they started to open up a little bit more with diversity. I think Kirsch had been there for a little bit. I know when I first got there, Kirsch had just got there. It was his first year, so anyway. But whatever, but like they know what they were doing. Like they didn't have that many people in there like that, and then all of a sudden you start seeing more African Americans showing up on campus, but they're not in our field. Like everyone that was in the IC, like they all had classes except for like three of us, and then like the few other people that was in STEM. So
Oh yeah, and the IC is our intercultural center, so that's like where where really students of color come to join. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it like that. Students of color, you know, of all colors come to join. But it is
was called Office of Multicultural Affairs.
But
it was called that at first.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I want to say primarily Black students use it, but everybody is welcome there. So I just want to just say what the IC was for reference.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like for me, I'm gonna wrap it up, but it's just like, I didn't study with other people. I tried to do what other people would say, like go tutor, and honestly, none of that worked. I did kind of what Konan did. I would go to the library by myself. I really had to figure out what worked for me and really sit down, and I realized like I'm a visual learner, so if I can see something, I'm good. So like I just started drawing, and once I started drawing stuff for biology and started looking at the shortest videos on YouTube, like and like then biology started coming easy. I felt like I wasn't even studying anymore. Like I was drawing pictures, like, and then like that was it. Like
I wish I drew more pictures in Orgo because like I didn't do hot in Orgo.
Yo, Orgo. If I would have knew that the first time, boy, that would have been a joke, easily. But the second time around, I definitely, like I said, I had to fail a couple classes for me to for me to know that. Like,
okay, well.
plus any knowledge.
Well, I guess like we can make it a general undergrad question, but what was your favorite and least favorite class? I can go while y'all think about it, but I'm gonna say like my favorite was parasitology. Like I said, I came in the wake like knowing like I wanted to study parasites, but the class like did more than just talk about parasites. Like we also created eradication plans for like neglected tropical diseases, and I really enjoyed. That's how I knew I wanted to do public health. Like when I took parasitology, I thought that's what biology was like, oh, you're studying the parasites and also like creating eradication plans, but that's actually public health. So that's why like I'm migrating in that direction. So parasitology was my favorite class. My least favorite class was physics 2. It was the first time in my entire life I ever got a D. I have never gotten a D in my life. But I didn't feel as bad about it because I had talked to a bunch of like bio grads, like people in graduate school who were also like, I got a D in physics too. Like it doesn't really matter. Like the rotation of like electrons on don't matter. So I felt better.
I guess I can go next. My favorite class by far was bioethics because I knew like healthcare disparities existed, but that was the first time someone had like laid out, like gave me readings dating like all the way back to like redlining and how like systematic inequalities are like constructed and like how they exist now. So like putting a name to like all the things that I'm seeing was like pretty cool and interesting. And I think I actually am more interested in public health rather than like, I don't know.
You can get a minor in it. I mean, a master's in it. Since you're in medical school, you can get a master's.
I don't know. This is my first year, and this might be my last degree. But my least favorite class was physics. One, like, I got a below a 50 on that first exam, and that was, I thought it was like bio where you like, you know, you put in a lot of hours, like cram the night before. Definitely was not like that. So you know, it was only up from there, but that was a rough class for me.
2 for physics.
I can go ahead. So my favorite class is probably a tie between that social and political philosophy class I mentioned before, where we built the curriculum with the professor, and my philosophy of space and time class. We just talked about whether like space and time are real, which is crazy. Could talk about that for hours. And probably my least favorite class was one of my first year seminar, which is like just for references, sort of a general class they have freshmen take. That's so it can be like a fun topic or something that's not really like a gen ed, and to sort of just get your feet wet with the college environment. And mine was about contemporary art. And I remember we had like some of the projects we did in there, like he had us film a 15-second video about a rock and turn that in for our assignment. And we watched this one contemporary art piece of like this woman and her boyfriend running into each other naked for 3 hours. Like that was the piece. That was the piece. We didn't watch the whole 3 hours. We just watched a clip of it. But it was just some weird stuff that had been my least favorite class.
Did you learn anything though?
I learned that there's art doesn't have a definition, right? Anything is art to some people. So running into each other naked can be art if you want it to be.
It makes me think of that time that guy put those glasses, like he was at an art exhibit and he put some glasses on the floor or something. Or like, and they just thought it was like if that was a piece of art, or that banana that dude like nailed to a wall, like
right.
It's like, oh my god, mind blowing. This stuff is just can't make this up. Kevin,
are they charging people for that? Like that has to be.
You paid to go in, like you paid to go into the exhibit.
God, no way.
So like that's art, and they probably sold it for like I don't even know if like a rotting banana has an appreciating value, but like that thing probably sold for more than like.
You know, they went home and they were like, I just saw the most life-changing scene.
Banana peel.
You chose the wrong major.
Bro, I feel like for me, I say 2 classes. It'll be virology, and I will say that's hard. I'll say Gen Chem too, just because the teacher let me listen to music while.
First, I thought that was you're saying you didn't like it, but I was like, oh wait, okay, yeah.
No, I like that class. The classes I don't like, it was History 101, because that teacher was he was. I just want to go in on him, bro. Bro, he is. If I ever see him, like.
What was the focus of the history class? Like, I know the histories have certain focuses. What was his focus?
Bro, it was like. It was like just generic history, like everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like he's telling me to meet up with him or to go to the writing center. So I go to the writing center, I get a C+. And then I go meet with him. He said, you should meet with me. I meet with him and get a C-. I said, why did I meet with you? I could have did it on my own and did like as a freshman too, so I didn't know any better.
Yeah. Well, I took history my senior year, and like it was the hardest. I was the only like senior in the class, but it was the hardest like basic level class I had ever taken. Like I had to push to get a B+ in that class. And it's not even a major class. Like the professor like was cool and stuff, but like I was like, I wonder how the freshmen did, because like I'm over here, 4 years in, like I have my experience, I know how to study, but I was studying for history as hard as I was studying for parasitology and learning like their scientific names.
Yeah, I feel like I hated those Tuesday, Thursday classes, like the 9:30, like the extra 15 minutes, like makes a difference. And like, I just wasn't having it with that one teacher. Yo. Like the 9:30s was trash. Like,
I would, yeah, if you're listening, don't take 8 a.m.s. Like I took 8 a.m.s. That year I thought I was going insane.
Right.
I was
Do
taking,
not
I had
do
8
it.
a.m.s 5 days a week. Like they gave me,
oh
because they
my,
gave me
Mm.
Spanish. Because Spanish, you take it multiple days a week when you start out. So I was taking it like every day. And like, hey, I was awake. Like I went 8 a.m.s because I was awake, but my 9 a.m. suffered. Like I sleep in class. Like anybody can confirm who's ever seen me in a
Or
classroom.
go to.
I've been sleeping in class since high school. I have extreme like sleep deficit. So get sleep. Don't take 8 a.m.s. That's my final advice. If y'all have advice for bio majors or people who are looking to kind of do what you do, go to graduate school, work at a pharmaceutical company, go to medical school specifically. What advice would you leave them with?
I'll say just stick through it, stick with it. Don't let the naysayers steer you wrong because they're gonna be out there and overcome any obstacle in front of you. So that's me. Oh, and follow us on Young Black Roundtable.
Well, I'll put that in the description.
um, yeah, I can follow, I guess. For me, I would say, this is more like just a general undergrad thing, but I know at least in high school, I was trying to, sort of do everything at once. Like, I was, playing, basketball, baseball, soccer. I was trying to be in every club, to do everything, just fill up my resume for college. And I think one thing I definitely learned about undergrad is that you don't want to be stretching yourself thin like that. Like your major and minor, whatever your classes are gonna be put enough on your plate that you will burn out way too fast if you try to stretch yourself thin like that. So find the one or two things that you really want to pour your energy into outside of class, and pour your energy into those instead of stretching yourself thin over like 5 to 10 things, because that's where I found that I was not only most like maximize my productivity in class, but also found something outside of class that centered me, and that I had the time and energy to do because I wasn't trying to stretch myself too thin. So
Can I link some of your music? Yeah, Konan raps.
nah, that's done. That's been scrubbed. That's been scrubbed off of everything. Actually, I think one of my songs is still up on Spotify, but all the SoundCloud stuff been scrubbed.
Oh wow, yeah, no. I was like, the world needs to hear Conan's music. He had a whole rap career, and he was getting A's in class. Konan was gold.
Yeah, I might have to drop an album of all the unreleased music I have.
Tanner, your advice to the young ones, even though they're not much younger than us.
Facts. Okay, I have two pieces of advice. First, I would go back and tell my younger self, don't be afraid to ask for help, because I feel like, particularly, your mentor doesn't have to look like you, but I feel like people like mentoring. So, because it gives them a chance to like reflect on themselves and talk about themselves, and that experience, I feel like it helps me when I mentor, and I enjoy mentoring. And Kevin, you expressed how like you like giving back. I think a lot of the times I would be afraid or like hesitant to reach out because I didn't want to burden someone, but I don't feel like reaching out for help when you have a purpose is a bother. So keep that in mind. And also, I feel like emotional wellness and mental health, Konan, you mentioned a little bit about how you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. I think that is really not talked about a lot in like biology in college, in the Black community. So I would just say there's always going to be stressors regardless of what you do with your life. So really take the time to do things that you want to do, and just be very intentional about how you spend your time.
Yeah, I mean, things I had an advisor when I told you I had that F in cell. Like, he was just like, he told me he got a D in like a class, and I was like, this man is a professor with a wife and children, a house. Like, life went fine. Like, life goes on. You know, so it's just like when you're in college,
it doesn't seem like it in the moment.
Like, yeah, like you feel like, oh my god, if I fail this class, I'm gonna be homeless. Like, I need to become a stripper now. And you know, I'm pretty sure most people have had that conversation with themselves in college. Like, I'm not getting this. Like, I'm gonna have to just resort to something else. Like, I'm not worthy. But it's at the end of the day, it all, you know, obviously resulted fine. You know, everything turned out great. But my last like real piece of advice is like, you're not defined by your major. Like, at all. Like, I work in environmental science. I have never taken an environmental science class in my life. Like, everything I do in my role, like, I learned on the job. Like, I remember my first like week in work, my first day in the field, like, I was like, oh, we're in the woods, like the woods,
and I'm looking at like spiders and stuff on the ground. You took like, it's a basic ecology class, but like they don't tell you about like wetlands and like
I'm surprised you ain't throw that class in there for the worst.
It tied for the worst. Like, no, wait, no, I like my ecology professor. What do you take before ecology?
Oh, he was a good guy. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
a good
no,
guy.
he was
the first guy. Yeah, my bad. The first guy.
Yeah, no, I liked ecology, but yeah, but like I looked up my professors. That's something I would also recommend. Like, if you can, look up, like, don't let it, like, take it with a grain of salt. Because some people do hate on professors, like, because they were a crappy student. And, like, that's on them. But, like, often, this is just me. I went for new professors, one, because I felt like they were a little bit easier. Because they weren't trying to fail everybody in their class.
What's that website? RateMyProfessor.com or something like that.
I think that's, I don't know if that's what I use, because some sites have their own, like some universities have their own, but I think that's what I use is Rate My Professor. But like, I did look up professors, like, because some professors were unnecessarily hard. Like, you talk to your peers and like, you know, upperclassmen. To be honest, I didn't want to have to do a lot of effort. Like, you know, well, yeah, I wanted to study, but I didn't want to like be doing extra on top of the extra I was already doing as a pre-med, you know, biomajor chem minor. So yeah, but back to like, you know, you're not defined by your major. Like, I took one ecology class, but like right now I'm doing permitting, I'm doing threatened and endangered species, and I studied like microbiology and genetics. Like, I'm not using my degree per se, but I'm using like the skills I learned. Like, I still have to look at like reputable sources and, you know, peer-reviewed papers to find out habitat for animals. Like, but once again, like, I'm also applying to public health programs. Like, you know, you're not defined by your degree at all. Like, I could go into business and management with like biology. Like, you can do anything with your degree. If you had an English degree, you can go work at NASA. Just like sell yourself right and take some classes. It's all, yeah, I learned the word finesse from Kevin. So it's all how you like, you know, finesse it. I don't know.
It is talk, you know what I'm saying? I walk that walk. You good.
Kevin's like the king of finesse. Like, he could talk anybody into anything. Okay, guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of share your thoughts and feelings with me. And yeah, I hope to bring you guys on here more installments of whatever I choose to call this.